Welcome back to the stunning conclusion of Typon versus Yuji. I left it here at a gunshot. Will it be enough to silence our foe? Find out right now on the Eden of Grisaia. With Typon focused on fending off my knife, I had fired an 11.4mm 260 grain big game hunting bullet into his gut at point-blank range. The pistol in my hand, too huge and clunky to be a particularly practical weapon, had previously belonged to Oslo's subordinate Travis. I had slipped it under my belt earlier, thinking it might come in handy if I needed to blow the lock off a door. You may be an exceptional monster, but you still died to a bullet, all the same. It was genuinely impressive that the man hadn't died instantly. The caliber of the bullet wasn't the only relevant consideration, of course. But he'd basically taken a .454 Castle round to the stomach, and he was still healthy enough to scream. You didn't see that every day. I wouldn't have thought anyone other than Osco could be tough enough to survive a shot from a gun like this. That hurts, doesn't it? Well, then again, I guess that's the least of your worries. Writhing on the deck, my brother stared up at me furiously with eyes full of crimson red blood vessels. Hold on a second, I'll put you out of your misery. Damn, out of bullets, huh? The pistol could only hold 5 of those absurdly enormous cartridges at a time. I had counted the shots Travis took, but the overly complex mechanism on the swing-out cylinder was annoying enough that I hadn't bothered to double-check how many bullets were left inside. I'd either have to pick up the gun Typon had thrown aside earlier, or finish him with my knife, at the cost of some potential pain. But as I was thinking it over, my brother reached inside his shirt and pulled out another case of booster drugs. Shit. For an instant, I could almost hear Asuka's exasperated voice in my ears. How many times did I have to tell you, kid? Finish the damn fight when you got the chance. You always screw up at the worst possible times. Not happening. Quickly kicking the case out of Typhon's hands, I pressed my knee down on his chest, pinning his thrashing body to the deck. I just have to do this the hard way. It's the best way there is, really. But as I raised my knife and looked down at my brother's bloody, wide-eyed face, my thoughts began to move in unproductive directions. Even as my rational mind screamed, "Kill him!" the faces of my victims rose up out of my memories. People who hesitated at times like these end up dead. I had to kill him now, or I'd be the next to go. I knew that, but I still couldn't move. The face of Zoe Graham, daughter of a man I'd murdered, wouldn't leave my mind. It wasn't relevant. This thing was practically a part of me. A part that maybe I don't want to face. I had an obligation to kill him with my own 2 hands. What reason could there possibly be to let him live? All of a sudden, my brother was pressing a cylinder to his own neck. Just as I'd hidden a gun under my clothes, he'd apparently kept a spare supply of the boosters stashed away somewhere. Oh shit. Spasming like an electrified frog, Typon jerked his back up off the deck and sent me stumbling backward. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up on end. Every pore in my body was open. The smell of murderous rage was so thick in the air that it almost felt like I was breathing in poison. As my brother slowly rose to his feet, heedless of the gaping hole in his abdomen, I saw something like steam rising up from his body. Oh man, How the hell could he even stand? Look at that. Look how evil he is. Of course, I'd heard stories about soldiers who'd walk kilometers back to their home base with their guns spilling out of their stomachs. Was it all just sheer willpower then? I couldn't understand it. What was keeping this man on his feet? Before I even realized the attack was coming, it had connected. The punch itself was a perfectly ordinary right hook. He hadn't stepped toward me. I hadn't seen any preliminary motion in his shoulder, but in the blink of an eye, he'd smashed his fist in the side of my face. At first, I didn't know what had happened to me. As the world distorted before my eyes, my toes curled up reflexively, and my skull creaked under the strain. I finally realized that I'd been struck. Reeling backward, I threw a hasty punch of my own. It was a big swing, completely telegraphed. My fist cut through empty air. Just below it, I caught a glimpse of Typhon's silver hair. By the time my mind processed that he ducked under the punch, he landed 2 vicious blows to the side of my gut. Ugh. One of my right ribs broke and jabbed into my lung, forcing a strange gasp from my throat. Not good. If he damaged my lungs, I wouldn't be able to breathe properly. And if I couldn't breathe properly, my muscles would eventually stop working. It doesn't matter how tough or determined you are, an engine can't run without gasoline, and the human body can't move without oxygen. My legs swayed unsteadily beneath me. Taking advantage of the way my body was tilting, I launched a sudden roundhouse kick. This time I felt my attack connect, but he defended himself with a cross-arm block. There wasn't any point pushing forward. I didn't have the momentum to break through. You bastard. He wasn't laughing. My brother was actually laughing, and his voice was full of genuine glee. The blade of his knife cut through my flesh, stopping when it hit my collarbone. Once again, there had been no advance warning whatsoever. The attack hit me before I even knew it was coming. Even a close-range combat specialist takes 1/10 of a second or so to launch a strike, but Typhon's movements were just instantaneous. This wasn't anything so simple as a difference in our reaction times. His murderous malice was so overwhelming that it concealed his intentions completely. Every attack felt like a bolt from the blue.
遅いよ。遅すぎて止まって見えるよ、兄さん。
My brother fired off a kick of his own, returning my earlier attack in kind. His leg lashed into my unguarded solar plexus, forcing the air from my lungs before I could even cry out. Knocked completely off my feet, I stumbled backward across the hard metal deck. I couldn't breathe properly. My eyeballs were quivering so intensely that I could barely see a thing. My body felt as heavy as lead, and the cold deck beneath me seemed to be draining the warmth from my limbs. This was not good. I had to get up. I had to get up right now. If I let myself drift off, I wasn't going to open my eyes ever again. I knew all that, but my body just didn't want to move. It felt a bit like that time I'd nearly bled out on the ground after taking a shot from a rifle. How had I gotten myself out of that one? I seemed to remember jerking my jaw down and yelling, come on, at myself until I could move again. Ah! It wasn't happening this time. When I opened my mouth, all that nourishment was a bloody froth. As my fingers curled up, they brushed against something cold. I realized instantly what that something was. A case of booster drugs. A case I kicked away.
いいよ、使いなよ、兄さん。
Typon must have kicked me this way deliberately, knowing that the boosters were lying there. That kid really was too cocky for his own good. Was he that sure that his own big brother couldn't possibly beat him? I could kind of understand that, actually. Not too long ago, I'd almost convinced myself that I'd surpassed Kazuki. Apparently, overconfidence ran in the family. Reaching out with trembling fingers, I took a cylinder from the case and pressed it desperately to my neck. A burst of brilliant white light exploded before my eyes. Suddenly, my body was boiling with heat, my muscles swelled up inside of me, and my bones groaned under the strain. The pain was beyond intense. A powerful force was ripping my body apart. A vice was clamping down viciously on my head. My heart was moving so fast that I thought it might explode. What was this? 200 beats per minute? Blood surged through my veins, reinvigorating every cell in my exhausted body. I was suddenly bursting with energy, like a candle flaring up before it burns out. I could move again. Propelling myself forcefully up off the deck, I landed steadily on my feet. In total, I had now taken a triple dosage of the boosters. That was definitely uncharted territory. I looked around me, observing a world that seemed to be moving in slow motion, and my eyes found the face of my brother. He was smiling. But for some reason that didn't inspire any real emotion in me. I felt no anger, no pain, nothing. Right now I probably had the exact same smile on my own face. The familiar smell of blood and adrenaline in my nostrils was the only thing in the world that felt real to me. Without devising any plan whatsoever, I took my first step forward. At a glance, the two of us were about 9 paces away from each other. I closed that distance in 3 giant strides. Keeping my body as close to the ground as possible, I rushed straight towards my enemy's legs. My leg whipped forward in a low, sharp kick, like a scythe mowing down wild grass. The blow struck home. Maybe he hadn't even attempted to evade it. Oh, it says lyrics. I'd used enough force to shatter an ankle. The impact to his foot threw my brother badly off balance, and before he had a chance to recover, I leapt up onto him. I hadn't planned any of this out in advance. It certainly wasn't any kind of martial arts maneuver. I literally just jumped on the man like a wild animal bringing down its prey. That's really kind of what's happening right now, isn't it? The only real difference was that I didn't have any razor-sharp fangs to sink into his neck. A human being's only weapons are the techniques they've beaten into their own bodies. Without any need for conscious thought on my part, my body moved exactly as I trained it to, like a predator obeying its natural instincts. Using the momentum of the leap, I grabbed Typon's left wrist and pulled him forcefully toward me, then drove my elbow into his temple. Now I just need to follow through, push him down, and smack his head against the hard surface of the deck. When you're thrown off balance by a sweeping kick to the leg, it's impossible to defend yourself or even soften your fall. By using the weight of my body and his own acceleration against him, I intended to slam him down hard enough to crack his skull open. But his response was something I hadn't been expecting. This wasn't anything particularly fancy either. He simply braced himself using his stationary leg. What the? With only that one leg, its muscles swelling until they nearly tore his pants apart, the man actually managed to bear both my weight and the force of his own body's momentum. It was the sort of thing you'd expect to see in some circus sideshow, not actual combat. Indifferent to my astonishment, my brother reached out with the arm I wasn't grasping and seized hold of my wrist. The strength of his grip was inhuman. My wrist screamed with pain and I heard my watch's glass dial cracking under the pressure. At this rate, he was going to crush through the bones and rip my hand off. Damn it! Instantly kicking up my right knee, I drove it into his injured gut. There was a sickening crunch as the blow landed, and my brother let out an involuntary cry. It was probably less an expression of pain than of frustration at his injured body's refusal to move as he wanted, and his steadily declining physical stamina. Should I pull away or press the attack? There was a split second to decide. When you have your opponent at a disadvantage, you press forward and bring him down, even if it means taking 2 or 3 blows in the process. Pulling my right elbow back, I quickly reached my hand out towards Typon's face. My middle finger and ring finger grasped his lower jaw, my index finger pushed up into his ear, and my thumb moved to gouge out his left eyeball. But my brother wasn't about to just let that happen. The same instant I started to apply pressure to his eye, the middle finger of his left hand stabbed in my right ear. Shit, he's gonna get my eardrum! This wasn't the end of the world in itself, but if he pushed through my inner ear, I'd lose my sense of equilibrium. And if that finger made it all the way to my brain, it would be over. That wasn't the sort of thing you could shrug off. Thrusting my arm straight out, I threw Typon's jaw backward, violently ripping him off of me. The two of us tumbled across the deck in opposite directions, our eyes tracking each other's movements. Pushing myself up using all four of my limbs, I verified that my sense of balance was still functional, and my brother rose to his feet as well, swaying like a puppet with a few broken strings.
まったく殺すのに1分以上かかったのは兄さんが初めてだよ。
Funny, I could say the same about you. What, you're just bragging now. When a job's gonna take more than a minute, you give up. That's an ironclad rule for any assassin. Ordinarily, you want to kill them before they see your face. You never give yourself a chance to feel empathy for the target. If things look tricky, you back off and wait for another chance. Unless you follow those rules, you won't last long in this line of work. It had already been 7 minutes since the start of our battle. At this point, we both already failed. But even so...
俺が兄さんの立場ならもうとっくに諦めてる。諦めたところで所詮は元さやだ。こうして抗うだけの価値が市ヶ谷にはあるっていうのかい。
You think I give a damn about Ishigaya? No, fuck them. I'm here for you. And Oslo and all you assholes are going down tonight.
本気で国防なんてものを憂いでいるわけでもないんだろう。上の都合で西へ東へポクッと死んでも数には数えられない。どこへ行ったってそれは変わらない。それでも戦い続ける理由が兄さんにはあるのかい。
You wouldn't understand.
わからないから聞いているんだ。俺と兄さんの何が違う。
We've experienced different things. My master used to say that the value of a man depends on the kind of men he meets. But the way I see it, a man's real worth comes down to the kind of women he's known. And that's where the difference between us lies. You're the person I could have become. If I'd never met Asuko or set foot in Mahama, I probably would have ended up just like you.
くだらないね。それは不必要な感情だ。
Like I said, you wouldn't understand. He'd been taught to value only that which is useful, to bravely throw away his own life in pursuit of a greater goal. But I'd been raised by a woman who let me experience all sorts of things, useful or not. A woman who scoffed at the idea of heroic sacrifice. Men love to die young in a blaze of glory, leaving everyone else behind to pick up the pieces. But women are survivors. They live on, and they struggle forward, fighting to the bitter end. Of course the two of us couldn't understand each other. You know, it's like they always say, men who trained under women aren't like other men. They're stubborn, dirty bastards. They do whatever it takes to survive, and no matter what, they never stop coming at you. And what are you fighting for yourself? Why is any of this worth risking your life for? Do you even have a home to return to?
俺にだって積み上げてきた理想があるさ。そのためには兄さん、あんたが邪魔なんだよ。死んでくれよ、兄さん。
I understood where my brother was coming from. There had been a time when I, too, believed that the perfect world Oslo described was the only possible paradise. There's no such thing as heaven on earth. In that case, we just have to make it ourselves. For the sake of that goal, it was only right that we shed the blood of those who stood in our way. Those words had been drilled into my head over and over, and for a time, I'd believe them absolutely. I couldn't even imagine what kind of paradise would actually await us at the end of our labors. But even so, I'd murdered countless people in cold blood, hoping to create a world less terrible than this one. Sighing softly, I looked down to the deck and spotted the knife I'd cast aside some time ago. I'll kill you with my own 2 hands. Squatting down, I reached out for the knife. It was so cold to the touch, I felt a shiver down my spine. Oslo had once told me that a tool for killing people should be devoid of warmth. It was probably both an expression for his distaste for firearms and a reminder that the act of murder is best performed emotionlessly. My brother here was another killing machine that man had created. As he brandished his knife, I saw no anger or sadness in his face. This was the only way of life he knew. He couldn't do anything but kill. And that's why he had to eliminate the obstacle in his path. It wasn't as if he had a motive. His prey was standing in front of him like a predatory animal. He simply let his instincts carry him forward. He didn't care if I tried to evade his charge or to meet it head on. He just wanted to wound me further, to weaken me, and eventually to bring me down. There were no tactics or strategy involved. Willingly accepting a certain degree of injury, he thrust his knife relentlessly at every hole in my defense. It was a simpler and uglier thing than even a brawl between children. Faster. I had to be faster than him. Faster than before. My body, already at its very limits, was accelerating rapidly toward death. Stars flashed before my eyes. Starburst syndrome, huh? This was probably the same starry sky Osco had seen on her deathbed. Countless points of light were glittering brightly all around me. For some reason I felt like every one of them was the soul of a dead human being, beckoning me out into the darkness.
なぜ邪魔をする？オスロに対する復讐か？オスロを殺してどうする？壊してどうする？お前があの男に代わって世界を回すつもりか？
There's some people you have to kill, some things you have to destroy, and that's what Oslo is to me.
もういいんだ。もうお前は自分のために生きてもいいんだ。もっとあがけ。人生なんてもっとジタバタしていいんだ。楽に生きようとするな。
That woman was everything to me. When she told me to do something, I was damn well going to try. I was going to fight for my own sake, for the place where I was standing, for the road I wanted to follow, and for the handful of people at my side. That was all the reason I needed to make it this far. I'm not like you. I don't need someone else to give me a reason to fight.
それはあんたの英語だ。
So what? I've never met a man who wasn't. And it wasn't much of an argument, admittedly. But I wasn't here for a debate. Once you start to hesitate, you lose the ability to kill. You can't stop to consider things from your enemy's perspective. You can't pause to wonder if you're in the wrong. Questions like that are like a weight around your neck. That was the reason we were trained to kill our targets within a minute. It was the reason we tried not to think. When the questions snuck their way into your mind anyway, the trick was to just shrug them off. But to do that, you had to have asked yourself those questions 100 times already. I'd gone through a great deal of anguish and uncertainty, and in the end, the women I respected more than anyone told me I was fine the way I was. That was why I could shrug off my doubts effortlessly. Never took more than a minute to kill someone, huh? Then I guess this was the first time you ever had the chance to hesitate. It would be cruel, even childish, to call this a matter of experience. A machine doesn't feel doubt. But when its programming contradicts itself, it stops working. The only thing that can keep moving forward, contradictions and all, is a human being. And someone who only cares about things that are useful can't hope to understand what it means to be human. That was the real difference between you and me. Sorry it took so long to introduce myself. I'm Kazami Yuji. Occupation student. That's the name of your brother. And the name of your killer. Mention it on your way down to hell, and they might move you to the front of the line. Well then. That just left Heath Oslo himself.